This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, bringing you the info you need to make your next move a great one. This show is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty. For show notes and links, go to acerealtypa.com/podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chester County Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, and this is the show that gives you the information you need to make your next move a great one. Today I'm sitting down with Bipin Chandriani, and we're going to be talking a little bit about investment properties and some of his experience on making offers and what to look for. My main question is, when you're putting an offer in on a property that you're going to have as an investment, depending on your strategy, how do you come up with a price? And how is pricing a property that you're buying as an investment differ from pricing a property that you're buying to live in? So, Bipin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me.
So real quick, can you just tell me a little bit about your background? Now, you're a licensed agent here with RE/MAX Ace Realty, but you've been investing. So have you been an investor longer or an agent longer?
I have been investing for the last 15 years.
Okay.
10 years full time. I found that real estate investment is one of the best ways to build wealth, generational wealth, and get passive income. Mm-hmm. I have seen many friends and other people get into this, and they have built a lifestyle. So I decided to get into real estate investment about 15 years ago, working part-time.
What were you doing before that?
I was in information technology, and there were times when it required either extensive travel, which I was not prepared, so I was looking for different options. So I got into that. So
when you started, you said it was part-time. So you still had your full-time job, right. And you were investing in properties.
Yes. My first property was a disaster.
Tell me about it.
I trusted the realtor and the contractor who said it was the best deal available, and don't worry, just get it. It is already occupied by tenants. Once I bought it, what I found was the tenants were long-term and they were paying subpar rent.
Were they paying less than what they were supposed to pay?
Yes.
Okay.
However, the previous owner, I bought it with them in place.
Yeah.
So the previous owner had no interest in increasing the rent. So he just let them stay there for long term. However, when I bought it, I found things started breaking up. The HVAC system failed, and there were other issues. So it became a money pit. Mm-hmm. And I had to get them fixed at a much bigger expense. Mm-hmm. Also, I paid a lot more money for that property than everyone else in that community, buying at the height of the market.
Oh, okay. Oh, about when was this? What
this
year?
Was in 2005.
Oh, okay. So that was that was the
right.
Probably, I guess it still probably went a little bit up a little bit after that, but
again, as a new person, you trust your team, and I felt that I was let down.
Yeah. Do you think they were? I mean, obviously, you don't know what was going through their heads, right. But did you feel like they were trying to push it off on you? So, like, were they trying to get? I guess the question is, did they know what they were doing, or did they not? Was it because they didn't really know what they were doing, or did they know what they were doing and they were just trying to get the sale down?
This was an off-market deal. Okay. And the listing agent was known to me, and he told me this is a good deal. So I said, okay.
Yeah.
And the contractor also was known to me. However, from his observation, he felt that it was not bad, but things started unraveling. And anyhow, I kept that property for a few years, and then I got into Then I got into investing in a particular college area near Temple University.
Okay.
My calculation was, I want to invest in an area where there is going to be an ongoing demand.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make sure that property doesn't stay vacant in between transitions.
Mm-hmm.
And that college town is generally considered a very, very strong market.
Sure, yeah.
So I bought this property. It had to be completely redone, new everything.
Like gutted down to the studs?
Down and,
gotcha.
And that doesn't come cheap. However, once you have done it the way you want it, you are sure that things will things will last, and that you'll be able to get many years of trouble-free usage. Now, so the way I calculate if this property would be a good fit is I look at the cost of acquisition, cost of full rehab or whatever renovation that I'm doing, and then understanding what kind of rent I can expect.
So real quick, the cost of acquisition. So you're saying like the down payment and the closing costs.
Well, this property, I'm not looking at just the down payment, and I'm looking at the total cost of purchase.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, generally, how many when you buy an investment property, are you buying it all cash,
Yes.
or are you getting a
Buying cash.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your thought process with that? Like, what's the advantages? I know some of the disadvantages of buying with cash. What are some of the advantages that you see?
Initially, when you are trying to get into investment, it is much easier to buy properties in cash, especially if the purchase price is fairly low.
Right.
And once that property is renovated, rented, and you have positive cash flow, banks are willing to give you money, 70, 80% of the cash, of the money that you're bringing in.
Yeah.
To do whatever you want for your next project, acquisition, renovation. There are also loans available which gives you money to buy a property. However, it's easier when you are first starting out if you have home equity line of credit on your primary home. You take the money out of that, buy cash, renovation, completion, rent it out, and then contact the bank for help with the next project.
Right. Were you using home equity, or was that your savings that you were spending on those initial investments?
Okay. Most of it was home equity line of credit.
Yeah. So when you're doing, we were talking about the cost of acquisition, then you were saying the cost of renovation. When you're calculating that out, are you going by what you know? Are you overestimating and padding it a little bit, or are you getting quotes before you even make the offer?
I am getting quotes, and it's also best to err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
And allow additional amounts for renovation. Initially, I would take my contractor with me to see the property before I would bid on it. And then as time goes and as you become more experienced, you know what it is going to cost you.
Right.
And in the last 3-4 years, material prices, labor prices have gone through the roof. Cost of acquisition also has gone through the roof. So the capitalization rate, or cap rate as they say, has come down a little bit. Traditionally, 8 to 10% capitalization rate, cap rate, is considered good.
And that varies on different areas, right? So, the way I view it too is that cap rates aren't necessarily good or bad. It just depends on what you're looking for and what your strategy is. A high cash flow property often doesn't have as much appreciation. And, we can talk about that, based off of where you're investing in Temple University. Now, a house that does have a lot of appreciation usually has a lower cash flow rate.
Right.
And, just to kind of give some context there, usually that's because there's a high demand of people who want to own and live in that area. Right. So, if there's a lot of people who want to live in that area, you're going to see the appreciation go up, but the rental income's not going, is not going to be, not a lot of rental profits there for the amount that you're spending. But if it's, a place where there's a lot of renters, you can often get a place for a lot less, have good cash flow, but then when you go to sell, it's not going to appreciate nearly as much.
Well, it also depends on areas.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to buy something in the borough of Westchester, which is very difficult because there are not too many properties available.
Right.
And the rate of return in Westchester is much, much lower. 10 years ago, when I started looking, I could buy a property in Temple for $100,000, for example,
right,
ready to rent, and here it would cost me $300,000 to $400,000.
Right.
And so you can see the big difference depends on the area.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so just kind of get an idea. You have your acquisition costs, your renovation costs. A question I had was, how often in your experience do renovations come in over your budget? And when that does happen, what kind of percentages are you looking at? Because I will say one thing that over the years, I've been nervous to get into renovations or flipping because my fear is something's going to happen and it's going to end up costing twice as much as I thought it was going to. And then I'm stuck with either an unfinished project, or I'm losing money, or I have to back out. And I've gotten to the point where I realize that that's not necessarily it's something you should be concerned about, but it's something you can prepare for. When you're doing the renovations, have you seen the budget come back significantly? Like, has the cost come back significantly over budget, or is it usually able to predict?
It again depends on what materials we use. Different areas have different material standards. So we try to, again, I have had, when I first started getting bids from different contractors, there were some people who were giving me bids like it was Northern Liberties. If you're in a prime area, your cost, your property acquisition, maintenance is much higher. Your property has to have the best finishes. Now, in Temple area, my properties, they are much better than what other properties are renting. However, we use good quality materials and superior finish. So going in, we are managing the cost.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because putting a carpet, you're going to have to change the carpet every time a tenant moves out.
Right.
Expensive, time, delay. So we had been putting hardwood floors in our properties. Just recently, we started putting luxury vinyl flooring, which is more durable, and so we are learning as we go along. However, we try. When people come, they say, "Oh my gosh, you have a washer and dryer and dishwasher and so many granite countertops and superior finishes. Kitchen, bathroom are all redone, so they look really nice." When we have people, when we had students initially, they would say, "Wow, this looks like my home, just a smaller." So we try to provide good quality finishes.
And you've seen that return, like that seems to help.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the luxury vinyl. I think when it first came out, people weren't quite sure about it, and it had kind of like a cheaper perspective.
Right.
But now it seems like any obviously it's not hardwood, but it seems like where people are putting laminate in, luxury vinyl and laminate seems to be pretty even as far as what people are expecting and liking.
And luxury vinyl is much nicer than laminate. Now, it is great for rental properties, and if you have seen new construction homes, they are also putting luxury vinyl. Now, for a single-family home, for your personal residence, you may not put luxury vinyl. I have a preference for hardwood floor there because it is much better.
Yeah,
for your own home or
like it looks nicer, it feels nicer,
and it does carry more value.
Yeah,
when you're trying to sell it, or even when you're enjoying it.
Right. And then I always remind people, you can always, if you have luxury vinyl and you don't really like the feel, like you can always put a rug over it too. Yeah. I like having like a custom cut area rug. Yeah. I think it's a nice touch, especially when you're talking about these more city urban style houses, more modern feel to them and everything. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. I'm trying to think. So we're. So you look at the cost of acquisition, the cost of renovation. So what are the different ways that you're determining the rent? Because just like, as agents, we do CMAs for what a house is going to sell for, but that information is public knowledge. Yeah. Sometimes it's kind of hard to know what something's going to rent for. What are some of the things that you'll do to try to figure out what the market, like what that property is going to rent for? Whether it's going to be above, like where market is and above or below. What's some of the thought processes?
Right. So if the property is renting in that area for, say, $2,000, then I would want to pay around $200,000 for that property.
Okay.
So 1% of that amount.
So how do you know they're renting for $2,000? Are you looking on like listings like Craigslist and apartments.com and then the MLS because there are rentals on the MLS as well. And then you're just kind of assuming that because for the most part rentals usually get rented out at the asking rate.
Right.
You can negotiate your lease. Anyone can negotiate a lease. The question is, if there's a line of people waiting for that spot, you're not going to have very much wiggle room.
Right, exactly.
But for the most part, things usually rent out for what they're asking.
So what I'm looking at is, if it is going to cost me $100,000 to renovate it, then my purchase price should be around $100,000. So $100,000 plus $100,000.
Okay.
$200,000. That is my total acquired cost.
Right.
And if I'm going to get around $2,000, I think that's a good price.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Now again, this again varies, as you said, from market to market, from different properties. But that is something that I like to keep that number in mind. If they're asking $300,000 and I know that I'm not going to get $3,000 in rent, then I'll just pass.
Okay, and then you said I guess if you have another project in mind, you'll refinance. You'll pull some money out of it after the fact. Yeah. Do you do that? Do you then is that like an automatic thing? Like once it's renovated and rented, you go ahead and refinance it, or do you wait until you have the next project in mind and lined up?
If you are, you can get a line of credit account set up on the property that is rented out and that is providing cash flow. You could also have a mortgage application done on that property. And again, certain lenders do this. They will give you money on line of credit on on the property, depending on how much you have. About 70 to 75% of the rental income is available to be borrowed. Not rental, but the value of the property is what you can borrow against. So if you are applying for a mortgage, that money is available to you right now, right as the application is approved. And if you don't have your second property lined up, then you're paying interest.
Right.
So it's best to have the next project lined up and then get the loan and pay for either the property or the rehab.
Great. All right. Awesome. Well, thanks. I think that's really helpful. If someone is looking to work with you on some of this stuff, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Well, they can call me on my phone, 484-347-1848. And my website is homesbybipin.com, HOMESBY, Bipin, BIPIN.com.
Okay. homesbybipin.com.
Right.
homesbybipin.com.
Right.
So awesome. Well, hey, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate you coming in.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by RE/MAX ACE Realty, serving buyers and sellers in the Chester County area. Subscribe for new episodes at acerealtypa.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found.
This episode is brought to you by RE/MAX ACE Realty in Downingtown, PA. Whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, we have a real estate expert for you. Search for homes or contact an agent at acerealtypa.com.